People like to imagine respect is something you earn through kindness, effort, or romantic consistency. But Machiavelli would laugh at that idea. He understood something most modern men refuse to accept. Respect is not given to the man who tries the hardest. Respect is given to the man who can walk away without blinking. And before you think this is about coldness or cruelty, listen closely. Machiavelli believed that human behavior bends towards strength. Not physical strength, psychological strength. The strength to hold your ground when emotions flare. The strength to stay centered when someone tests you. The strength to choose your own standard instead of begging to meet theirs. Women don't respect men who place them at the center of their lives. Not because women are ungrateful, but because human nature is wired to distrust anything that appears too easy to obtain. When something requires no effort, no loss, no possibility of collapse, the mind instinctively devalues it. This is why the man who chases loses, and the man who holds himself still becomes magnetic. Machiavelli wrote that power is never in the hands of the one who reacts. Power is in the hands of the one who chooses when to react. And this is the core of his tactic. Create psychological distance, not with silence, not with manipulation, but through self-possession. Self-possession means you exist as a complete world with or without her. Self-possession means your mood is not altered by her approval. Self-possession means your sense of worth doesn't tremble when she pulls away. A woman respects a man who has a center she cannot shake. Because here's the truth most men never learn. Women don't test men to break them. They test men to find the edges of their strength. A woman wants to know, do you fold? Do you panic? Do you abandon your standards the moment you fear losing her? Or do you remain calm, grounded, unmoved by emotional storms? Machiavelli understood that stability is intimidating. People respect what they cannot control. So here's the tactic in its purest form. Be the man whose behavior never changes based on her emotions. Not colder. Not harsher. Not distant. Just consistent. Unshakable. Centered. When she's warm, you stay centered. When she's distant, you stay centered. When she tries to get a reaction, you stay centered. When she's emotional, you stay centered. The modern man thinks women want sensitivity without backbone. But Machiavelli knew what reality shows again and again. People respect what stands firm. They follow what does not wobble. They value what does not beg. A man who can remain calm in the face of emotional volatility becomes someone she subconsciously trusts. Not because he's controlling her, but because he's controlling himself. Machiavelli wrote that the most powerful leaders were neither the loudest nor the softest. They were the ones who moved with intention, not impulse. They didn't chase validation. They didn't explain themselves endlessly. They didn't announce their worth. They embodied it. Apply this to women. You don't chase after every mood swing. You don't respond instantly to everything she says or does. You don't reward disrespect with more affection. You don't argue to prove a point. You enforce a standard. You don't crumble under pressure. You rise above it. And here's the psychological twist. When you're not easily moved, she becomes more careful with how she treats you. Not because she fears you, but because she respects the boundaries you carry with ease. The man who respects himself becomes a mirror. Either she steps up to match your energy, or she steps away and reveals she never belonged in your life to begin with. There is nothing forced, nothing manipulative, nothing toxic about this. It is simply the reality Machiavelli understood centuries ago. Power is held by the person who is least afraid of loss. And women feel that. They sense it. It changes how they speak to you, how they behave around you, how they invest in you, how they treat your time, your attention, your presence. A man who is not afraid of losing her becomes a man she is afraid to lose. This is the paradox. The less you try to make her respect you, and the more you respect your own standards, the more her respect for you grows without effort. This is the Machiavellian tactic. Not dominance, but unavailable weakness. Not manipulation, but unshakable values. Not emotional games, but emotional discipline. You don't win her respect by winning her affection. You win her respect by winning your own self-control. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to make threats. You don't need to pretend to be someone else. There's a misunderstanding modern men carry without realizing it. They believe respect is earned by being agreeable, accommodating, endlessly available. But Machiavelli knew something far more uncomfortable. People don't respect what is easy to influence. They respect what remains sovereign. A woman will feel this the moment she interacts with you. You're not respected because you speak softly. You're respected because you speak with intention. You're not respected because you're patient. You're respected because your patience has limits. You're not respected because you stay. You're respected because you're willing to leave. And once a man truly understands this, his entire presence changes. He stops apologizing for having standards. He stops shrinking himself to avoid conflict. He stops begging for clarity and starts providing direction. Machiavelli believed the strongest leaders were not the harshest, but the ones who never allowed their emotional world to be controlled by others. This is where most men fail. You argue to be understood. You raise your voice to feel heard. You explain yourself to win approval. But the Machiavellian man understands something far more strategic. The moment you try to prove your value, you've already lost it. Women don't respect explanations, they respect consistency. Consistency in your boundaries. Consistency in your tone. Consistency in your expectations. Consistency in your self-respect. When she pushes, you don't collapse. When she pulls away, you don't chase. When she doubts you, you don't panic. You stay where you stand. And that stability becomes the gravity she orbits around. Because here's the part most men never hear. A woman thinks she wants a man who mirrors her emotions, but she stays with the man who stabilizes them. Not by controlling her, but by refusing to let her storms control them. This is the entire essence of Machiavelli's tactic. Be the man whose mood is not available for negotiation. When you're calm, she feels grounded. When you're confident, she feels safe. When you're firm, she feels guided. When you're emotionally disciplined, she feels challenged to rise to your level. Respect grows in the space between your emotions and your reactions. It grows in the pauses you take before you respond. It grows in the silence you hold when you are being tested. It grows in the way you walk away from disrespect instead of trying to fix it. And this leads to the conclusion Machiavelli would deliver to men today, the one modern masculinity tries to water down. A woman respects the man who respects himself more than he respects her. Not in arrogance, not in cruelty, but in hierarchy. Your life is the throne. Your purpose is the kingdom. Your integrity is the crown. She enters that world. She does not define it. When a man builds a life with structure, mission, and backbone, a woman sees him differently. Her tone shifts. Her attitude softens. Her behavior aligns. Her effort increases. Not because you forced her, but because your presence silently demands it. This is the power of Machiavelli's tactic. Stop trying to be the man she will never lose. Become the man she would regret losing. That is the difference between being liked and being respected. And respect, once earned through strength, doesn't fade, doesn't weaken, doesn't vanish in arguments or silence. It anchors her. It steadies her. It changes how she shows up in your life. Because deep down, every woman recognizes one truth. A man who governs himself cannot be controlled. And a man who cannot be controlled is always respected.